Grandpa Joe with Grandpa Des. Hey, Lance, how you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Eve as this is airing. Recording it a few days before that, but you're looking good.
Thanks.
Uh,
Yeah, I think I'm going to actually have a lot of shows that I'm on dropping Christmas Eve. So,
I've heard that. You did one with Garrett. I saw a still of. I think that one's going up tomorrow. Well, I don't want to kayfabe. It's going up Wednesday/Thursday. So, and then the Christmas Eve show. Were you on that?
I was on the Christmas show and also my regular Friday show, which was
Oh
pre-recorded,
yeah.
will go up. So there's going to be lots of me on Christmas Eve. So
Yeah.
hopefully I
Yeah,
don't ruin
well,
people's Christmas.
I'm looking forward to that one that you did. Okay, so you're drinking Tim's, so am I. Legit Tim's. And I got
I'm drinking out of a legit Tim's cup. Truth be told, there's New Wave Flow State coffee in it.
Okay, okay. What do you take in your coffee?
A little bit of cream and a little bit of sugar.
Okay. This one is black, but my first one's black and my second one is one cream, one sugar. And on the Tim's app today, I got the second one for free. So I actually have one cream, one sugar in the other room. So
Yeah, I'm a regular when I go to Tim's. And
okay, yeah.
actually, we'll probably be heading there later today at some point. The 12 days of Christmas on the app,
Yep.
30% off hot beverages today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's different depending on like your preferences because I've got two phones. I got one for work and one for personal, and I get different offers on both phones. So
Ah,
yeah. And so I got I'm working them.
I got to get
I
another phone.
You do, yeah, because I mean I get the points. If I got two coffees, I order on two separate apps. If I want Timbits, I order them separately. Like, yeah, you get all the points that way. So yeah, a little bit of working here for you. So I usually start off by kind of catching up, since it's a conversation. And I don't know if you remember this, you probably don't, but we've only met once face to face, and it was in Dallas. And you had a merch table, and I showed up. I showed up to see Brian basically, but I knew you were going to be there, and I wanted to give you my book, which I wrote, which you can see in the background there between the Jericho and Bret Hart books. Three great Canadian authors. Um,
Of
but
equal
yeah,
fame and
yeah, not quite. But yeah, I've a couple less zeros on my sales, but I did sell a few. And yeah, so I gave you the book, and then and I felt they're like I figured well I have to pay you because you're at the table and you're there working and everything, but it was so weird because you and Brian are friends, and I'm friends with Brian, and I just figured, well, Brian will introduce me and say, hey, Lance, this is my friend Paul. Paul, this is Lance. And he didn't. So it's like, well, I better pay him. And then so I was telling this story to Brian, and Brian's like, you Mark. And I'm like, well, you know, I ever since I was listening to you, and when I've been on F4W for I don't know 15 years or something, but I only started listening to podcasts in the early 2010s, and you're already doing the show on there. So I always figured, I knew you like to read, and I figured, yeah, maybe he'll like this book. But I because it's a wrestling theme, but it's I know you're more into no, you're not really, you're more into fiction, right?
I'm exclusively into fiction, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this one is fiction. There are elements of my life in it. I don't know if you read it, but if you ever want to, it's probably like a 2-hour read. It's like 180 pages or something like that.
What's the title again?
It's called Deuce is Wild. I can send you one if you lost it.
If you gave me one on that day, I'm sure it's on one of my shelves.
Okay, yeah, check it out. If you and if you don't, you don't. Whatever, it's fine. I know. I gave Brian one years ago, and I'm sure he never read it. And Tom Filthy had it in his background for a while, which I thought was cool. But I asked him about it, and he's like, never read it. But I had my buddy Dan on this show. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and he opened the show by reading from the book, and I was like, it's been 12, 13, no, longer, 16 years since I wrote the book. And I didn't even recognize the stuff I wrote, which is, it's kind of weird, and I thought it was good. I obviously went through an editing process, and maybe I didn't actually write the words in the order that I did. So
yeah, send it to Granny and have her read like 3 paragraphs a week.
Hey, you know what? That's a cool gimmick. Maybe I'd even sell a few. Although at this point, I'm just giving them away. I have boxes and
So
yeah.
was
How'd you?
that was
What?
that the Dallas, like the WrestleCon
Yeah,
where I wrestled Matt Hardy on that show?
I guess you did. I didn't.
'Cause
I
that
don't
would
think I
have been my
saw.
last match ever
Really?
so far. Yeah.
Well, I know when I had seen you, I don't think I saw that match, but you had just, I think you had gone for lunch with Ed and uh,
Oh
Rachel.
God. Yep.
And yeah, and you mentioned probably Brian. Like for Ed and I have been friends for years. I've known
I'm
him.
sorry.
I know. Well, he buries me. I mean, friends is, I mean, it's, friends like that, who needs enemies, right? But no, I mean, Ed's a cool guy, but he likes to bury me. I'm gonna have him on the show at some point, and he just said, as long as I can bury you for 30 minutes, I'll be cool. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do.
Ed
Yeah.
is great in person.
Yes.
Just annoying as hell online, but in person,
Yeah.
he's a really good dude.
Even in messages, like in DMs and stuff, like he's cool. But as soon as someone else is watching, it's he and I'm sure one-on-one with you, like even in group settings, like in our group, he's kind of that the way he is online sometimes. But when you get him one-on-one, he's he'll give you the shirt off his back. Not that I want it, but he's a great guy. A lot of great people in the group here. And yeah, so it's like that's how we met. But it was cool because I'd never gone to one of those things. And I ended up throwing a few bucks to a few different people, just a little bit, like nobody that I really like wanted to meet. Like I was, oh man, I gotta meet this person, I gotta meet that person. It's more just like, hey, that person's cool, there's nobody at their table, and then I got a picture. I had my son with me, and I got him a couple pictures. But the one guy who actually I didn't even pay, he came up to me and wanted to talk to me because I was wearing a Jets jersey, and it was Stryker. And I've seen Stryker at about 4 different places over the years at different things. And every time he sees me, I'm almost always wearing a Jets jersey. That's kind of my gimmick when I go to these, conventions and stuff. And he always finds me and talks to me. I don't think he remembers that he talked to me the last time, because it's always like we're talking for the first time. But he always comes up to me and talks to me, which I thought was weird. But I think it's because he's such a big hockey fan. I don't know if you know him.
I've met him a few times and know him, but it's like not like we're buddies or hang out or stuff. Like, to be perfectly honest, I think maybe that weekend in Dallas may have been the first time I actually met him in person.
Okay.
But he was at that WrestleCon wrestling show when I worked Matt Hardy. And I do remember when I got there just hanging out, chatting with Stryker for a little while. So
he's a smart guy. I think he gets, bum rap online for his commentary. And I mean, maybe some of it's deserved. I think he's out there trying to entertain himself sometimes. But when you talk to him in person, like he's really knowledgeable about a lot of things, and especially sports. And I'm into sports. You not so much, right? Like you don't really follow.
Not at all.
Yeah. So that's where I kick off with him. And then I ended up in a fantasy baseball league with him a couple of years ago through Promise, because Promise and I are really good friends. We met in Vegas, I don't know, 9 years ago, and he crashed in my room. And ever since then, we've been, we've been friends. We chat almost every day. And, so he's introduced me to a few people. Yeah, so that weekend. And then Marty Jannetty, I'm walking into the hotel, and he comes out and he comes up to me and he gives me this big hug, and he's like, oh, I haven't seen you in so long, dude. And it's like, I've never met you, dude. Like I didn't say it, but I'm like, I've never met him. And he almost had me thinking maybe I did meet him. Yeah. Cause he's like, and then apparently somebody else told me, no, he's like that with everybody. I think he just assumes, if you look vaguely familiar, he figures you're best friends. And,
I've noticed a lot of guys from that older generation, and I think it's because they were intoxicated. A lot of their, especially the socialized part of their career, that they're used to not remembering people they're supposed to know. So it's easier to just, hey, how's it going? Great to see you. Because I had that same thing in Dallas. I was having lunch with, I think it was my daughter was with me. I think Chelsea Green and Rachel Ellering were with me. Moose might have even been there. And Virgil was one. Virgil came up with the, hey brother, so great to see you, so good, and just put me over like $1 million. And it's like he leaves. My daughter turns to me, she's like, I didn't know you know Virgil. I'm like, I don't. This is the first time I met him.
Well, yeah, I'm doing the math. I'm like, I don't think you guys ever were in the same place at the same time. Maybe WCW for a little while.
Not that he was actually like he very could have been sitting home collecting a check at that point in
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
He wasn't
yeah.
on the shows.
Okay, yeah,
But
yeah.
I
By
think
then,
I think I had that with Marty too. Although that was one of my daughter's favorite wrestling moments. She was down in the lobby, I think, just hanging out and chatting with Rachel when Marty Jannetty waded into the fountain in the
oh
lobby
yeah,
of the hotel.
I
And
just missed that.
yeah, I've got a photo somewhere because my daughter got a photo of Marty, hip deep in the fountain in the hotel lobby at like 3 a.m.
Oh wow, yeah, that was because I think I had just left at that time because I wasn't staying at the hotel, but all my friends were. So I think I probably left around 1:30, 2 o'clock, and I'm getting texts. Oh man, you left too soon. Yeah, I get that a lot, like from people, because of the people I know and hang out with. Sometimes people think I'm in the business or I was in the business because I guess my I got wide shoulders and maybe I'm a little out of shape, but I look like maybe at one point I was in shape. So maybe people think, oh yeah, he's an indie worker or something like that, and so maybe that was the deal with Marty. Probably figured he worked me on some show in Peoria or something back in the day. Um, so you have, is it one daughter or two?
Two.
Two. Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. And are they still at home?
One is, one isn't.
Okay.
But yeah,
So
my oldest was briefly a wrestling fan.
yeah.
She became a fan during the NXT 4 women run in NXT. She was a big Sasha Banks fan. And
Okay.
then they got called up. She moved her fandom to the main roster for a little while, got tired of the product, and then stopped.
That's a common theme these days.
Yeah.
Oh, there's your famous dog. I got such a kick out of the show on Friday. My daughter was listening, and I was feeding her, and she was laughing so hard when you when you said, Brian says, you just called your daughter a dog a shithead, and he's like, he is a shithead. And we both just killed ourselves laughing.
Well, he doesn't really speak English. Doesn't know he's being
No,
insulted.
no, exactly. But I mean, it's not wrong. I mean, my dog too. We just cleaned up on the weekend, and then I come home from work on Monday, and there's insides of a doll just all over the basement, and he just decided that he'd had enough of this doll and was going to tear it apart because he's 2 and he hasn't been fixed yet. Because he's actually my daughter's dog, and she left him here and took off, and we haven't seen her in a couple of weeks. So I think we got to get her fixed. That sounds worse than it is. She's working. She's working at a ski lodge. So
Nice.
and it's a 4-hour drive. So she's hoping to be home for Christmas, but we're not sure. But that's why I wanted to ask about your daughters. Like, what's Christmas like? Are they going to be home? Or do you go somewhere else? Or
No, we almost have always had Christmas here. God, I think once since my wife and I have been together, which is coming on 30 years now, I think once we've gone to Ontario to spend Christmas there with family. So we're sort of where the family comes traditionally for Christmas. Although this year it'll be really small. I think it's just going to be 5 of us. I think my 2 daughters, the one daughter's boyfriend, my wife and I for Christmas dinner. That'll be it.
yeah, we're gonna have probably the smallest group we've had in years too, because of the one daughter not gonna be here, and my second, my youngest son, I guess, because I have 2. I'm not sure if he's gonna make it, and the others will be here, and the boyfriends, and so we'll probably have about. Well, and I got a grandson now too, so we'll probably got like 11.
Oh,
But
wow.
but we have a big house, so we've had as many as 25 in the past. So last year, because of COVID, a lot of the people that usually come just kind of did their own thing, and then this year, we had Christmas and or Easter and Thanksgiving since then, and they just kept doing their own thing. They used to come, and now they're not. So don't worry about the dog. It's fine. It's charming. My dog's gonna wander in here at some point because I closed the door, and they don't like that.
Yeah.
You know,
If I close the door, he'll scratch at it.
Yeah, if you leave the door open, sometimes they'll leave you alone. But if you close the door, they're so I left it like it's closed, but it's just open. So if he wants to come in, he can.
Mhm.
And then I've got the cat in the windowsill beside me here. So if the dog knows the cat's here, they're at war. But he's hiding behind the blind. So
Yeah, it's 2 years of being home via the
yeah,
pandemic that Max is overly bonded to me. So if he can see me, he wants me to be involved with him.
what's that like? Like that's probably the longest time you've been home, like in a long time, eh?
Oh God, like I think after God, I'm trying to think of what it was. Like I think it was literally like maybe like a 10-week stretch when I first got even just laid off, but when I got cut, like I think it was after about 12 weeks, I realized that this is the longest stretch I'd gone without working or going to school,
Yeah.
like since I was 12.
Good lord.
Like, because even the 2 months off for summer, I generally got a part-time job and worked after, 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like I always either was in school or I had a job. And in wrestling, I never took more than, I think I had whenever it would have been, there was a stretch when I got hurt in 93. I hurt my knee a little bit and couldn't go back to Otto Vaughn's, which would have been the end of November. And I don't think I worked a match again until January or February. So it was about a 2-month period because of the holidays and just the way the bookings lined up with the brief period of time off for my injury. It's like, I think that was the longest stretch I went without a booking.
That's not bad. Like to think that you went that long, like without getting seriously hurt. Like it's almost unprecedented. Like in this.
Yeah, I was, again, I don't know if it's luck or skill or,
Hey,
smart and not doing dumb stuff. But yeah, like the only surgery I ever had was, again, I think I had the school for about 5 or 6 years when I eventually just had I got my knees scoped for some torn meniscus, which actually I think ended up being a result of me being foolish and going back and playing some volleyball uh, at my daughter's school. I played in a teacher's tournament and played like 9 games in one day,
mm,
and all that jumping on a hardwood floor, my knees were not happy.
it reminds me of the time my dad showed up at our church and we had a program called Brigades, which is, I guess, similar to Beavers. And, but, like for a church version. And we were playing floor hockey and he showed up and we are all teenagers and he's running around and like checking everybody and just going full stop non-bore. And he was dead for a week after that. He couldn't move. So it was kind of funny because he had to look like a superstar among all these little kids. And then
Well,
I'm
the
sure you
funny
weren't like
thing
that.
is well, I went 100% because that's all I know how to do. But I think what did me in, and it's when I realized that, at that point, 20 years, 25 years of wrestling, you don't realize it, but you always punch your feet when you land to make noise,
Yeah. Okay.
right? You take a reverse atomic drop and you punch your feet to make noise. Anything you do, you stomp, you punch your feet to make noise. And I think out of habit, I did that all day on a hardwood floor.
Yeah. So
Rather
you
than
were,
absorbing the landing, I'm punching my feet and landing hard. And just, the impact on your knees every time you hit the floor at a weight that I was heavier than when I played volleyball back in university, that it just did me in. Like I couldn't walk the next day.
so everybody that you were playing with probably figured, like as hard as you were going, probably figured you were going like 10 times harder than you actually were because subconsciously you're selling it. You're trying to you're making that noise to make the
Well,
impact
they
seem
probably
bigger
just
than it
thought
was.
it's like, man, that dude's heavy. Listen to how hard he hits the floor. But like
Well,
again, maybe I was just old and it was ready to go. But again, it was
probably.
just it was, they just had the scope and they trimmed some torn meniscus. I
Yeah.
remember because I was running the school and I had it done on the Friday and I was back teaching on Monday and
Oh.
I was in the ring wrestling by Wednesday.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, that's cool.
it was pretty minor. Not like I wasn't laid up.
So you're probably itching to get out now, though, after 2 years.
Yeah, I'm actually to the point where, although, this damn pandemic, um, with my wife and the dogs and everything, it's like there was always legal loopholes where you could cross the border with paperwork and work. Many people did,
Yeah.
but I'm a rule follower, and technically you're supposed to quarantine when you do that. A lot of people didn't, but
Yeah.
it's like if I was going to travel, I would have quarantined. And it's like at that point in time, I would never see my family.
Right. Yeah.
So once the border opened up, I'm fully vaccinated, the quarantine restrictions are gone. I'm like, hey, I can actually look into possibly going back to work somewhere. I should start looking into what my options are. And I've started doing that. And
And
now
now they
we've got
changed.
the
Yeah.
Omicron, and it's like the government has actually mentioned, if you, well, we're considering, and I'm like, oh God, please don't.
No.
I would like to get back doing something. I don't want to be super, super busy, but I do want to get back doing something. It's been 2 years. I'm a little anxious to be a little more involved again.
I could be totally wrong, but it feels like where we're heading is that, there's a vaccine. They're going to probably have medication for people that get the virus. So it's like, you know what, if you get it, take some medicine, get vaccinated so you don't have the effects. And they're probably going to stop with the quarantining and all that, hopefully within a few months, because I think we're getting to the point where either everybody's going to either have had it or have been vaccinated, or in some cases both. So
Yeah, and if the pill treatment that they seem to be having success with is enough for those unvaccinated people to take as soon as they get sick, that our hospitals aren't burdened at that point, I think
yeah.
if we're not straining our healthcare system and people aren't dying, we're just going to have to accept the fact that
Yep.
coronavirus goes around, you get sick for a little bit, you stay home for a couple weeks, and as long as it's
Or
not overloading the system and killing people, we're just going to have to deal with it.
yeah, and then people can kind of get back to doing what they're doing. I know I've only crossed the border once since then, and it was a medical appointment, and we did everything we were supposed to do. I think we quarantined for 10 days when we got back. Well, we were vaccinated already, so technically I didn't have to, but my daughter wasn't, so she had to, so I had to stay home with her. And then I think you went across once, right? Didn't you go
No,
to? Well, for some reason I thought you went to Washington.
no,
Oh,
I
okay, so that was a gimmick, because I think there
yeah,
was one
I
show
did
you
a show
did.
where I said I was in studio.
Oh, okay.
I was
I
I was replacing Vinny, and I just, when
oh,
I
okay.
talked to Brian, I'm like, take a photo of Vinny's seat, and I'll green
Yeah.
screen my way in.
Oh my God. I bought it, like, because I don't watch. Maybe I would have caught it if I was watching on video, but I'm just listening, and I just assume, oh, that's weird that Lance went down there. I wonder what that was for. And I didn't bother following.
I
Okay.
made
So
one trip to Ontario. I think it was
yeah.
the summer. That's the only trip I've
Yeah.
made anywhere in the 2 years. Other
Well,
than that, I've never gone anywhere I couldn't walk to, pretty much.
wow. So yeah, you need to get out at some point. Hopefully that'll be soon. I mean, I imagine your wife is wanting you.
Well, to be honest, like my wife works,
Okay.
and so I'm, for lack of a different term, the house husband, and I'm,
Yeah.
and it's funny in that it really is, our roles have switched, in that I used to go to work and she stayed home and watched the kids, and now she goes to work and I stay home and watch the pets because our
Yeah.
kids are old enough to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 dogs and a cat. Actually, the cat's pretty low maintenance, but
Yeah.
Max, the
Feed me
dog
and
that
feed me and
the
clean
dog
me.
that runs in and does the background noise, he's a big handful. Like, he's 100-pound dog.
Oh my.
And yeah, and he's reactive on walks. He likes chasing rabbits. And you have to be fairly physically fit to walk him. So
Okay.
she likes me being home to deal with Max.
What's the weather like out there? Like, is it covered in snow, or is it pretty mild
We are
this year?
currently, but
Yeah.
you're obviously not familiar with Calgary unless this is just a setup for listeners. Our weather is different by the day.
No, I am. That's why I was curious. Like, what is it like right now? I mean, I'm
Right
in
now
Winnipeg,
it's
so
cold and we've got,
yeah,
I don't know, 4 inches of snow on the ground. But yeah, we had last week, it was like, minus 30 with the wind chill. And then we got up to +2 and now it's back
yeah,
down to minus. Like if you don't like the weather, wait an hour. Is Calgary. We get 4 seasons in a day,
yeah.
but it's a lot of work, especially with, with the dogs. It's like, okay, you got to put boots on the dogs, jackets on the dogs, bundle them up. And then
Wow.
again, because Max is reactive to other dogs, and again, pandemic is partly responsible. We used to take him to a doggy daycare and he got along with all the other dogs and liked to play with them. And he was, really good. And then when the pandemic hit, we kept him home because it's like, I'm here. Why would we pay for doggy daycare?
Yeah.
And I think he misses that interaction. So when you walk him, it's like it's an excited barking and lunging. But when he's a 100-pound dog, it's like it scares the crap out of people.
Yeah.
So I walk him in an industrial area where there aren't pedestrians and other people walking their dogs and stuff to react to. So it's like, put 8 boots on, 2 jackets on, throw them in the car, drive over there, walk them, bring them back. It's like, it's a damn near a 2-hour ordeal to take them out for a walk every night. So my wife is very happy to have me home to deal with that.
I can imagine my dog, our dog. Well, we have two, like my daughter's dog, and then our big one. And so he's like you're describing Max, like he's very reactive to other dogs. So she takes him out really early in the morning so that there's no hopefully no interaction because he goes nuts sometimes. So she works she's at work by 6:30, so she's probably walking him at like 5 before I wake up. And then on the days when she doesn't work, we just let them out in the backyard. Like we got a big yard, so they can both go out there, and I let them out through the day. Like if they start barking, the one dog grabs a like a chew toy and puts it in his mouth, and that's his signal to me that he needs to go outside. So we got a good little understanding going here. So, and I'm the same. Like I'm working from home, but I'm doing a lot of the stuff that she used to do. And I mean, she's always worked, but when I was working out of the house, it was probably I just wasn't pulling my weight and now I am. So because I went away for 2 weeks in I don't know 2000 2001. So I was we'd been married about 10 years, and that 2 weeks was death. So when I think about like you and other people, like I just don't I couldn't even imagine. I can't fathom being away from my family that long, but I guess that's the life you chose. And and you obviously got a good woman, so
Yeah, that managed to tolerate it for such a period of time because, back in when we first started going out, it's like, I was doing, well, not first, but, later on, it's like I was going to Japan every month. When we got engaged, I went to Europe for 5 months, and it's like there's a lot of road trips and a lot of being away. So
and it's not like you're making decent money, but it's not like you're a millionaire. So it's like,
no, I wasn't. Well, again, once I got into, WCW and other place, it was better. But yeah, like it's not like when I was in Japan, I was making, $500,000 a year or $1 million a year.
Yeah.
But it paid the bills and was a good life. And I certainly can't complain, but I am ready to be a little more involved again.
Well, that's cool. And we all look forward to that. So, you know what? We're almost coming up on our time. So I feel like we just got started, and
really?
maybe,
Wow,
maybe if you'll do it again, I'll have you back on at some point. Because I feel like there's a ton more things we can talk about. I wanted to get into books with you. I was even going to ask about music, because that's one thing I've always been curious about with you, whether you listen to music or anything like that.
I listen to music, but I wouldn't describe me as a music guy.
Okay. Well, maybe that's,
what I mean? Like I've never really, I think the extent of the music that I've purchased over the years is a couple of best ofs because I was on the road.
Yeah.
But, and again, my tastes are incredibly wide ranging, which is the nice thing with Apple Music is just whatever you happen to want to today. Oddly enough, I've been into a lot of Jim Croce lately.
Oh yeah, I love Jim Croce. I used to do the Columbia Record and Tape House gimmick, and I always got the Jim Croce greatest hits every time I did it.
Kids today are Googling, what the hell is that?
Oh yeah, that's awesome. It was free music before there was free music. So you know what? We'll wrap it up here, and I'll definitely invite you on again, and hopefully you'll come on. So I'm going to close the show like I always do. I want to thank Lance for coming on. For Lance, I've been Grandpa Des, and this has been Cup of Joe with Grandpa Des.